Actually, Mummy asked for the Supreme to come for the lunch. He didn't specify, so he wasn't sure. So Brahma, Vishnu and Shiva all came. So they asked for the first guy. So they brought all three of them. Could you get some of my books, including that new Pilgrim? You have some copies with you? I didn't get it. All right. Okay, well, in my room out there, in both of the bags, there's a green bag and a big black bag, in both of them there's some copies. You can bring that one. And Vangshidas Babaji's there also. So we're going to read the Krishna Svadhamo Padavedas, which is chapter 3, text 43. Translation: This Bhagavad Purana is as brilliant as the sun, and it has arisen just after the departure of Lord Krishna to his own abode, accompanied by religion, knowledge, etc. Persons who have lost their vision due to the dense darkness of ignorance in the age of Kali shall get light from this Purana. Yeah, then please read the Bhagavad. This is a well-known verse within the Srimad Bhagavatam. It's one of the several verses within Srimad Bhagavatam describing the glories of Srimad Bhagavatam. In modern literature, if within the book the writer wrote that this book is wonderful, you would think that the writer was being very egoistic. But that's normal in Sanskrit prayers and in literary compositions. There is Phal Shruti, that means that what benefit you will get from reciting this or reading this. Shri Gurvashtakam Etaduchai Brahma Mahurte Patati Payapnad. That's stated about the Gurvashtakam, the prayers we sing every morning. That those who rise and during the early morning of the hours, the Brahma Mahurta, they chant this loudly. Tameva Vrindavana Nata Sakshat Sevaiva Lavika. They attain direct service to Vrindavana, Krishna in Vrindavan. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is writing this. How can he say this? You may think, how is he so bold as to say that by reciting this prayer which I have composed, you will achieve the highest perfection? And the answer is that a Vaishnava doesn't do anything on his own behalf, or he doesn't think that I'm doing it by myself. A Vaishnava always thinks of himself as a representative of those who are giving me these treasures. A Vaishnava is a nectar collector, treasure hunter. He doesn't have to hunt very far. The treasure is there for those who want to take it. But well, it's like something like a geologist, that anyone can go in a field, but if one is trained, he can find out, oh, in this field there is oil or gold or valuable minerals. But a farmer, he may not recognize that. He may see, well, this is good for farming, but he may not know the actual value. So a devotee is one who is initiated into appreciation of Krishna, the name of Krishna, the literature about Krishna, which is all non-different from Krishna. And by studying Srimad Bhagavatam and endeavoring to serve Krishna, we'll find so much treasure. Dr. Pavel was telling me he'd read how many times? 7 times through the Bhagavatam. Czech or pronunciation of the name isn't correct. So if you read through again and again, you'll find hidden treasures that you read it and you think, oh, this is wonderful, I never read anything like this before. And then the second time you read through, you think that the first time I didn't read it at all. I admit there's so many things I discovered in the second time. And it goes on and on and on, and we go deeper and deeper and deeper into the treasure of Srimad Bhagavatam. And then by the grace of Bhagavan, the subject of Bhagavatam, we will feel inspired to glorify Krishna, and Krishna will give us intelligence how to glorify Him in ways that we ourselves can't imagine. So Vyasadeva, who is the writer of this Srimad Bhagavatam, is glorifying Srimad Bhagavatam because he doesn't think it's my property or my creation. He thinks I'm a servant who am simply delivering this knowledge. It's a completely different approach to writing literature than that of the in the modern era. That someone tries to write something creative or different and then take the credit for it. But in the Vedic tradition, one repeats what he is. His glory is in repeating what he has heard. And if you invent something, that is condemned. Of course, one may have some realization, but it has to be based on that which is given by the previous great authorities. And instead of trying to show oneself that, well, I'm a great author and I'm going to win Pulitzer Prize, Booker Prize, there are different prizes for writing. The writers present themselves simply as servants. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, in writing Chaitanya Charitamrita, says that I'm simply presenting a few drops from a great ocean. I don't really know what I'm doing, but somehow or other this is all coming through me. And we'll find many of the thousands and thousands of songs in the Gauriya Padavali, which the Bengali Kirtan tradition. The author just doesn't give his name, or he just calls himself a fallen servant of Krishna. He identifies himself like that. So Vyasadeva is glorifying Srimad Bhagavatam. He's writing it and he's saying, oh, it's so wonderful. Because he's not wanting to take credit for himself, but he's giving credit to Bhagavan, who is the subject matter of Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam is eternal, and Vyasadeva is compiling, and he's glorifying. This is so amazing. Srila Prabhupada also used to read his own books. He used to say, wow, these books, they're so wonderful. He said, when I read them, I'm surprised how good they are. But he said, but I'm not writing, Krishna is writing, I'm simply holding the pen, or he would dictate, and it's coming. So even the so-called creative artists who are trying to do something different, that the inspiration to do so also comes from Krishna within the heart. All the art is expression, or trying to convey some feeling or mood in a manner that cannot be done so simply by describing it. Art means try to convey something to others in a manner you just can't write it down clinically, but there's a feeling. There's more to it than that which is presented. There's the subtlety is to be appreciated. So it requires some finer sensitivity that some people will see a classic statue and just think it's a piece of stone, and the bird will sit on top of it and let out yesterday's meal. They have no appreciation. But those who are in tune with that, they can appreciate, or they try to appreciate what is being expressed here. It may require some training to even come to the platform of understanding that. Just like if one has training in music, then he can better appreciate what are the various the melodies and I only know the Sanskrit words, which I don't know in English. The Vai, the Tao, the Sur. That means the tempo. And the raga means, what's the English word for raga? You don't know English. Raga. In English? No. There's no word in it. There must be. Yeah, you're a musician. Mellow? Oh, alright, mellow. So, to appreciate Srimad Bhagavatam, it also requires some training to bring out that appreciation. Because Srimad Bhagavatam is not ordinary art or an ordinary intellectual contribution. Srimad Bhagavatam speaks not to our intellectual capacity. Although it is the highest philosophy, it is not simply a subject to be intellectually examined. even though it is the most elevated poetry, it is not, again, it's not something simply to be appreciated as poetry. But the Srimad Bhagavatam speaks to the soul. Thus Vyasadeva, he's appreciating this Srimad. He's saying here, the Srimad Bhagavatam, it gives us the intelligence by which we can, by which our spiritual perception can be awakened. Kalo nashta drishamesha. These people in Kali Yuga, the age of quarrel, their intelligence is covered over. Intelligence means the ability to appreciate that which is closest to them. The subject matter of Bhagavatam is Krishna, the Supreme Soul. He's the closest to us in all respects. He's sitting in everyone's heart. The soul is accompanied by the Super Soul, Krishna. And close, when we say close, that can mean physically close, and it can mean emotionally close also. That's why you can have a close friend. He might be on the other side of the world, but he's still your close friend. Because the distance, the physical distance, doesn't have anything to do with the closeness of the relationship. So Krishna is our closest friend. He's close to all of us because he's everywhere, and he's with every living being. And he's also our closest friend in as much as he never leaves, he never gives up on us. Even though our consciousness is covered by forgetfulness of him, he never forgets us. So Srimad Bhagavatam is that sun-like literature which reveals everything. We can't see, we are blind. Although our eyes see, we don't understand what we need to see. We see everything in the world, but we don't see Krishna. Krishna is everywhere, but due to our lack of closeness to Krishna, because we're not cultivating closeness to Krishna, we never see him. So Srimad Bhagavatam gives us the knowledge by which we can see Krishna. And of course not just see him. Can you see God, or can you show me God? But it's not just a matter of seeing. If you have a close friend, it's not you just look at them. But there are so many interactions. That's friendship is composed of how we interact with each other. So Srimad Bhagavatam introduces God beyond being a power, beyond being a concept, the supreme, loving and lovable person. And describes how we can live with Krishna, how Krishna lives with his devotees, how we can live with Krishna, how we can run and dance and play with Krishna, feed him, be fed by him. Srimad Bhagavatam gives all the knowledge to understand Krishna and reintroduces him to us as our very greatest friend. So although Srimad Bhagavatam is meant for everyone, because in material life our consciousness is unfortunately far away from Krishna, the Srimad Bhagavatam has always been a very high literature. High means that the culture or the civilization which is specifically meant for God realization is the Vedic culture. But within that, most followers of the Vedas, they don't really get the point. More interested in, there's in the Vedic literature there's a bait, E-A-I-T, like you get for a fish. Something to attract people, because people are interested in lower principles. You want to enjoy yourself, well, perform pious activities, and in the future life you can enjoy tremendously, more than you can now. So that's just to get people on the Vedic path. And having gotten on the path, then they have to come to the stage of realizing that, well, actually there's no real pleasure in this material world anyway. So let's try to get liberated from it. And generally that's considered, that's very high, that's the highest level of Vedic understanding. But even way above that is the activities in the liberated position, loving exchanges with Krishna. So that is specifically described in the Srimad Bhagavatam. This is the highest knowledge. Of course, everyone will say this knowledge is, whatever knowledge they have, they consider it to be the highest. But if we were to neutrally and objectively study the stages of God realization, we'll find that the knowledge given in Srimad Bhagavatam is the highest. Actually, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has done this in his Sri Chaitanya Shikshamrita. He's very systematically described different types of religious processes and graded them, and systematically shown how the pure devotional service to Krishna without any personal desire is the highest expression of consciousness, and is actually Jaiva Dharma, the inherent function of every living being. Inherent, you can say. And the same subject matter he's described in another book, Jaiva Dharma, presenting from a different angle, comparing with different philosophies and religious processes. So this Srimad Bhagavatam is a very rare book, inasmuch as it can be appreciated by persons of purified consciousness. At the same time, every person has by birthright the opportunity to enter into that, because every person is part and parcel of Krishna. I just thought to speak on this verse just before the Arati, when Ganadha Prabhu came into the room I'm staying in, looking as brilliant as the sun. Here in this verse is described as Bhagavad Purana is as brilliant as the sun. And I've spent most of this life in India, as you know, where there's still some culture of this, cultivating this Bhagavad culture. But today, by the grace of Austrian Airlines, I spent most of the day either in planes or in airports. They delayed my flight and I was stuck in an airport. So it's quite striking, the difference between the receptivity or the general level of acceptance in India for this, even now, for this Bhagavad culture, and in this part of the world. And of course, we distribute many of Srila Prabhupada's books in India also. I don't think Czech Republic's ever going to catch up. Although in terms of books distributed per head of population, Czech's got to be ahead, because India is after all a huge population. But then it is relatively easier to distribute books in India, because people have some respect, at least many of the people have some respect and some inclination for this by their very culture. Quite amazing how so many of these books are being distributed in countries where it's, from the average person's point of view, something very foreign. In the intrinsic sense, it's not foreign, it's the most natural thing for all of us. It's most natural for everyone to be close to Krishna, who is our best friend, and be happy in Krishna consciousness. But the goals of the culture of this part of the world, and the exposure, the things that we've been exposed to since birth, are quite different to what is being presented here. However, as is stated in Srimad Bhagavatam itself, Tadvag Visargo Janataga Viplavo Yasmin Prati Shlokam Abadhavatyapi Namanyanam Tazya Yashonkitan Yas Chinvanti Gayanti Gayanti Sadhava. Some of you know this verse? Can give the translation? I just see, it is saying in Czech. Well done. I presume you got it right. Gadadhar was reciting Srimad Bhagavatam. Gadadhar Pandit used to read Chaitanya Mahaprabhu daily. So it's stating that this Srimad Bhagavatam is a different kind of literature to that literature which is glorifying the names, the shapes and the feelings of this material world. Although materialistic literature can give us some insights into the feelings and perceptions on the materialistic platform, the Srimad Bhagavatam is a different kind of literature altogether. And it has the potency to create a spiritual revolution in the misguided lives of a sinful population. Because every verse is describing the glories of the unlimited Lord. And therefore, purified persons, they like to hear this, to repeat it, and to accept it. So this Srimad Bhagavatam was written down, collected and compiled and written through Ganesh by Srila Vyasadeva. There's Vyasadeva in his cave in Bhadrak Ashram in the Himalaya. And 5,000 years ago he wrote this down. Nowadays we go to Bhadrak Ashram by driving, or you can take a helicopter also. The army, mostly they do like that, the Indian army. But previously the only way to go was to walk, and there's no proper road. I mean, even now the road is pretty precarious. And this is the road up to Badrinath. Who went to Badrinath? You're driving up, you look out of the window and there's like, a 20,000 foot drop. There's no even anything, there's no protector. If the wheel if the driver's a little inattentive, then it's in the newspaper the next day. But previously, there wasn't even that. There was just some rough tracks, and you'd go by walking. So mostly, people used to go in their old age. Anyone who wanted to go on pilgrimage to Badrinath, they'd go in their old age. One reason is because it takes a long time to go. So you should have finished all your material responsibilities. Another thing is that if you're going on pilgrimage, if you tell somebody you're going on pilgrimage to Badrinath, it more or less means that you don't expect to see them again. If you don't, they don't usually come back. If you survive the journey, it's such a taxing journey, difficult journey. And then anyway, after going through such difficulties to go to a holy place, you don't feel like going back home anyway. You might as well just remain there or just go to other holy places. Why go back to material life? So Vyasadeva was sitting at Bhadrak Ashram in this remote place, which is cold even in the summer. And if you go down on the plains of India in the summer, you were complaining it was 30 Celsius here, but there it's 40 up. It's there on the plains of India in the summer. Generally, the temperatures, the daytime temperatures start at 40, and that's on the plains, the flat land. There's the mountains, the Himalayas, and then down below there's the Gangetic plain. It's called. No cell phone. So there's another great place where the Srimad Bhagavatam was recited at Naimisharanya. And somehow or other, I could never work it out, but they say that Vyasadeva was there also, compiling Srimad Bhagavatam, although we know that's the place where Sutta Goswami spoke about Bhagavatam. Here's Vyasadeva at Naimisharanya. So anyway, you can go to these places if you're lucky, if lucky enough. Or if you're even more lucky, you can bring these holy places to the world by distributing Srimad Bhagavatam. But when you go to these places, you see that it's so different from the life in the big cities, even of India, what to speak of the Western world. And you can appreciate how Vyasadeva was sitting in his cave in deep meditation, far, far away from any city, and composing the Srimad Bhagavatam. And here it is on the streets of Prague, what happened? How did that ancient text become translated in Czech language and be distributed in Prague? Well, there was a great plan. Vyasadeva is Trikala Darshi. He sees past, present, and he has the ability to see past, present, and future. Thus he was able to compile Srimad Bhagavatam, in which he describes the history of the universe, even going back thousands and millions of years to the creation, and even before the creation. And he speaks of current affairs at that time. It was a very important time in the history of the universe, because Krishna was personally present at the time. It gives the whole universe meaning. And Vyasadeva also gave so many predictions of what will happen in future, which we've seen many of them come true, and we're seeing them all around us today. Just like he writes of Lord Buddha, but as a prediction. At that time it was a prediction. Buddho nam jana sutta kikateshu bhavishyati. Bhavishyati means will come, will be born. So he said that Buddha will be born as the son of Anjana in the province of Kikat. And so many predictions of Kali Yuga he's given. That day by day, cleanliness, socham, daya, mercy, dharma, religiousness, tapaha, austerity, ritam, truthfulness, day by day all these qualities will decrease in Kali Yuga. So Vyasadeva, he's seeing past, present and future. And while sitting in his cave compiling Srimad Bhagavatam, he could see Gadadhar Das and others distributing this knowledge. Vyasadeva shared this knowledge with his disciples, and this knowledge was disseminated in human society throughout generations. Even the great contribution of Vyas was added to by subsequent acharyas. His immediately afterwards, Shukadeva Goswami enriched Vyasadev's contribution. Shukamukha Amrita Drabha Samyatam, this Srimad Bhagavatam, which was already very sweet and tasty, became even more so by the contribution of Shukadeva Goswami. So because Bhagavatam is poetry and literature and expressing the highest truths, not everything is stated explicitly. Because Bhagavatam it's poetry, it's literature, so the very nature of poetry is that everything is not stated explicitly. Explicitly means laying it out and making it very clear. It's rather subtle. Like prose is just prose is different. So there many points are implied. In fact, the actual subject of Srimad Bhagavatam is not even mentioned directly in Srimad Bhagavatam. How about that? Anayarapito nunam Bhagavan Harishvara. That the whole Bhagavatam focuses on Krishna, but then Krishna focuses on Radha, and her name is not even mentioned in Bhagavatam. So that's really subtle, isn't it? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu revealed that the whole, if we get deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper, we'll find that the real subject, or the topmost subject, or the subject which really is the highest expression, is not just Krishna, but Radha Krishna. That's why Prabhupada at the beginning of Bhagavatam gave an overview of the pastimes and teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. There had been many previous commentators on Bhagavatam, but Chaitanya Mahaprabhu revealed the hidden treasure of Srimad Bhagavatam, which is Krishna's love for Radha. Very most elevated subject. It's so elevated that even Krishna himself tries to understand it. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to give to us that thing which he himself was trying to get, which is understanding of how wonderful is Radha's love for Krishna and Radha's appreciation for Krishna. And this is being distributed in the streets of Prague. Vyasadeva saw that so many acharyas will come, they will make their contributions. Even what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came, that philosophy was later systematically presented by Srila Baladev Vidyabhushan, Jiva Goswami and Baladev Vidyabhushan, and many insights into the pastimes of Krishna were offered by Srila Vishwanath Thakur. And Prabhupada collected it all and gave the essence. And he gave this summary of it all it's a very big summary. This is only the first canto, and there are 18 books like this. Well, some of them are a little smaller. But even if it was 18 times bigger, it would still only be a summary, because the subject matter is unlimited. So from our limited perspective, it seems to be a very big book. From the perspective of the unlimited, even if it was 18,000 times bigger, it would still only be an introduction. But actually, everything's there. It's like on the cover, you can see there's Golok Vrindavan, all the Vaikuntha planets, the material world, and that's showing in the books. It's somewhere in there. You need a big magnifying glass. Everything's in Srimad Bhagavatam. Prabhupada gave us everything, and he gave us the mandate to give everything to everyone. So that's the amazing thing that's going on. This highest knowledge has descended from the spiritual world, was carefully protected and expanded on through generations in the holy land of Bharatvarsha, India, and is being revealed in this dark age of Kali to give the light of the absolute truth of Krishna. So it's amazing how these books are being distributed. I mean, if people don't choose to read these or to purchase such books, I mean, by themselves, they don't just choose to. But when they're introduced to these books by the devotees' earnestness and seriousness, that they appreciate that this is something very valuable. Otherwise, if you just made a stand on the street, if people had to come and choose, I don't think many people would choose. Even to read it, you have to really apply it. You have to think about it to try to understand what it means. Although Srila Prabhupada has presented in relatively simple language, it's still the concepts, again, they're quite foreign to the average person. Just like I read the first sentence, I just open on page 99. The first sentence, there are different occupational activities in terms of man's different conceptions of life. It's not so easy to understand, is it? There are different occupational activities in terms of man's different conceptions of life. It's not like reading some novel just to, pass away some. You really have to apply your intelligence to understand it, and even then it's difficult to understand. But nevertheless, because these books have transcendental import, because they speak ultimately not to the intellect but to the soul, they're having their effect. People are appreciating, and we can expect they will appreciate more and more. So Srila Prabhupada very much wanted that these Srimad Bhagavatams be distributed. Once devotees were asking that which are the best books to distribute, he said Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam, first canto, second canto especially. Of course, all these books may be distributed. This Bhagavad Gita seems very difficult, doesn't it? Becoming fully Krishna conscious, one is freed from all dualities and thus is from the contamination of the material modes. But so many people take to Krishna conscious, become devotees, especially by reading Bhagavad Gita as it is. So please go on distributing these books. It's wonderful to discuss the topics described here, so it would be nice if there are more and more people to discuss it with. Alright, there's so much more to be said, but we'll continue tomorrow morning. Shukadeva Goswami gave a summary by speaking non-stop for 7 days and 7 nights. And Prabhupada wanted us to go on discussing morning and evening throughout our lives. Formally morning and evening, and the rest of the time, just go on discussing. Vedanta Sutra is What do you mean? What's the subject? It's an exposition of the philosophy given in the Upanishads. It discusses the philosophy given in the Upanishads, which are the Jnana Kanda, or the portion of the Vedas which gives spiritual knowledge. And therein Vyasadeva discusses classical philosophical understandings and shows how the Bhagavad school, in other words, he shows how other supposed Vedic philosophers, those of Sankhya, Yoga, all these are not the actual understanding. There are two classes of people claiming Vedantists. Vedanta actually means the Upanishads. It means after studying all the Karma Kanda, after that, then you come to the actual subject matter, which is given in. And Vedanta Sutra is a collection of sutras or aphorisms which present the message of the Upanishad. So the commentaries by the Acharyas on the Vedanta Sutra, they for each sutra they explain this sutra is this is based on this statement from the Upanishads, or they may give one or more quotes from the Upanishads. Just like the subject matter of Vedanta Sutra is introduced with Janmadhyasya Yataha. The absolute truth is the source of all emanations. The summary of the Taittiriya Upanishad, Yatova Imani Bhutani Jayante, that from which everything emanates. Yena Jatani Jivanti, that by which everything lives. Yad Prayatya Visam Vishanti, that into which everything again enters or is destroyed. Tat Vijigyasasva, that is the proper subject of inquiry. Atato Brahma, Tad Brahmeti, that is Brahma, that is the absolute truth. So this covers the Atato Brahma Jignasa, the first sutra, and Janmadhyasya Yataha, the second sutra of Vedanta. And the Srimad Bhagavatam is the explanation of the Vedanta Sutra, beginning with Janmadhyasya Yataha. If you wanted to have questions and answers tomorrow evening, you can write them down. That way we get to cover all different questions and answers on Krishna consciousness, of course. So why don't you can write down tomorrow?
Hare Krishna.